Welcome! This is Radioactive Banana, and it's August 24th at 11:16 a.m. And today I want to tell you about the tremendous success in Afghanistan. And for those in Afghanistan, this is called sarcasm. We had the most tremendous success in Afghanistan, and I don't think you're quite aware of it. So I just wanted to go through what the successes were in Afghanistan. First of all, you may not know this, but there was something called the Tappy gas pipeline. Another Rockefeller adventure. You know it. There's one in Syria too. You might not know that. But here we are, the Tappy pipeline that goes through Afghanistan. Now, you may not know this company called Enron that was in the United States, that it was an energy company. It, had a lot of con jobs. It was absolutely destroyed people's lives. It's a huge story. You'll have to check into Enron. Enron was in Afghanistan before 9/11, and guess what? The Afghanistan people didn't want the Tappy pipeline. Nope, they were not interested. And you might be interested to know that this Tappy pipeline is a part of the Silk Road. Do you think China will now say, hey, thanks U.S., we now have our pipeline for the Silk Road? And that's because all these elites at the top are really working with each other, while they convince the rest of the world they hate each other, they want to kill each other, they fight back and forth on the news. Nah, they're buddies. Just like Prouty said in my previous video, behind the scenes of government, all these guys are working together. So here is the Tappy pipeline. Look at this. Now we have this article by Link, and it says Tappy gas pipeline makes its way to Afghanistan. Groundbreaking on Friday. So 2018 is when they had groundbreaking for this pipeline in Afghanistan. Turkmenistan has completed construction of gas pipeline in its section under Tappy project, following which a groundbreaking ceremony is scheduled to be performed at Turkmenistan border. And, that was just so exciting. The grand inaugural ceremony would be preceded by a steering committee meeting of the project's participant countries, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, at Mary City in Turkmenistan. Now, when I scroll further down in this article, here's what we find. Under the project, a 56-inch diameter, 1,680 kilometer pipeline having capacity flow of 3.2 billion cubic feet per day would be laid from Turkmenistan through Afghanistan and Pakistan up to Paki-India border, which is scheduled to be completed in the year 2020. Now, let's take a look at what the U.S. government and the military and the news has to say as of February 2021. Now, let's go ahead and start here with Newsweek. And this is called Joe Biden's State Department Denies Role in Taliban Pipeline Talks with Turkmenistan. And this is by Jack Dutton on 2/19/21 at 10:47 Eastern Time. The State Department has denied facilitating a recent meeting between the Taliban and officials in Turkmenistan about the proposed development of a pipeline that will stretch across Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. The U.S. has been a longtime supporter of the so-called Tappy pipeline, named after the countries it is planned to cross. Although the Clinton, Obama, and Trump administrations have supported it, the U.S. has not spent any money on it, according to PolitiFact. The project started in March 1995 when a memorandum of understanding was signed between the governments of Pakistan and Turkmenistan. However, the pipeline hasn't been completed and has been hobbled by delays. Turkmenistan's Foreign Minister Rashid Meredov said in November that his country in 2021 will begin construction of the 1,125-mile, 33 billion cubic meters per year natural gas pipeline in Afghanistan. The Taliban has vowed not to disrupt the project in the area it controls. Turkmenistan's foreign minister added that the construction of power transmission and fiber optic communication lines along TAPI's route was near completion. All right, so in this article, what we're going to look at are these points. That the State Department denied facilitating a meeting with the Taliban. The U.S. has not spent any money. The Afghan pipeline will begin in 2021, and the pipeline hasn't been completed and has been hobbled by delays. And we do have to ask ourselves why the Taliban would be involved with this. Why at all? The Taliban has vowed not to disrupt the project in the areas of control it controls. Must be paid off, huh? All right, let's check out that statement. Well, here's this next article, South Asian Voices. The TAPI pipeline in post-U.S. withdrawal Afghanistan, July 12, 2021. And what we find her saying down here is, although the TAPI pipeline will be a key economic project that is promised to be mutually beneficial to all parties involved, geopolitics, bureaucratic and economic obstacles, and the security situation within the region have delayed the project on numerous occasions within the last 3 decades. Today, not much has changed. The project is still being delayed by changing geopolitical dynamics and rising insecurity and increasing violence within Afghanistan. This is Wikipedia. This is on the TAPI pipeline. And it said construction on the project started in Turkmenistan on 13 December 2015. Work on the Afghan section began in February 2018, and work on the Pakistan section was planned to commence on December 2018. But wait a minute. They said this in this article that, this has been delayed. It's been delayed, my friends. Now, if we look at this article, The Global Great Game, they mention, they first show a picture of the Nabucco gas pipeline, which has already been finished. And then you see Turkmenistan over here, and then that's where their pipeline is going to connect in. And it reads, protecting pipelines is first and foremost a national responsibility, and it should stay like that. NATO is not in the business of protecting pipelines, but when there's a crisis or if a certain nation asks for assistance, NATO could, I think, be instrumental in protecting pipelines on land. That was the former NATO Secretary General saying that NATO just might be able to protect the pipelines. Now, in this article, we come down here, and it begins to talk about the drone strikes. And all I want to say about that is that it seems to me that we should look into whether those drone strikes were occurring all along this border, and if they were taking out the farmers that own this land. That is a question I have. That has been done many times in history, and I would really like to know whether the people who used to live on that land or are still living on that land where the oil pipelines run through, or are they being, paid? I'm not sure. This is a great article you can go through. And then Wikipedia also talks about the Nabucco pipelines. You can look at that. But let's look at this. This is in 2015. Turkmenistan to start building TAPI pipeline in early December. Government official. Really, 2015. I thought everything was just delayed. Afghanistan section of the TAPI gas pipeline to break ground on February 23rd. That's in 2018. Now we can confirm this again by this article from Mint, and it says India-bound gas pipeline TAPI breaks ground on Afghan section. And when was that? That was 2018. And then out of Pakistan, News Pakistan, groundbreaking of Pakistan section of TAPI gas pipeline in October 2019. I thought things had been hobbled, delayed, slowed down. That's what you're telling us, right? And it says U.S. welcomes groundbreaking of TAPI pipeline December 2015. Yes, the U.S. was all excited about this TAPI pipeline and were highly, highly involved. Now let's look at this article, Hydrocarbons Technology. They actually have this timeline at the top of their article, and it says Turkmenistan-Afghanistan-Pakistan-India TAPI gas pipeline project. Project type, trans-country natural gas pipeline. Construction started December 2015. Estimated investment $10 billion. Expected completion 2021. What do you know, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think the TAPI pipeline has been finished? Do you think the TAPI pipeline has been finished? And yet the foreign minister says they're going to start working on the Afghan side in 2021. No, they started working on the Afghan side in 2018. In 2018. The pipeline has not been hobbled by delays, ladies and gentlemen. Not at all. The pipeline is complete. And this is from 2012. TAPI pipeline. 2 major U.S. oil companies are interested. The Express. 2012. TAPI pipeline. Turkmenistan signs first contracts with India and Pakistan. That's in 2012. Turkmenistan to start work on $10 billion trans-Afghanistan pipeline in December 2015. That is when construction started. That is when they tell us, 2015, and completed in 2021. Now let's look at this article. Afghanistan, India, and the TAPI gas pipeline, March 1st, 2021. Since 9/11, the U.S. has used the pretext of its global war on terrorism to develop a military position within Guam, to establish geopolitical control over the Eurasian corridor, in which the Silk Road strategy grants access for major U.S. corporations to the region. Controlling this Eurasian corridor also secures access over the region's extensive oil and gas reserves, protecting the pipeline routes and trade. Less discussed in the media is Central Asia, where the U.S. has set up army bases in positions that guarantee the protection of existing and future pipeline routes. Is the U.S. spending money on pipelines? They're building military bases for future pipelines. Now I like this paragraph, but you get down here, and she says this year Afghanistan begins constructing its section of the TAPI pipeline. This is The Guardian 2021. That is not true. It began in 2018 and it is complete. Do you see how you are being manipulated? And all you have to do is go look out online to find all this information. That's all you have to do. Here's an article by HuffPost by John C.K. Daly, titled Collateral Damage from Afghan Turmoil, the TAPI Pipeline, and it was written May 21st, 2012. And the most important thing I want to come down to is this paragraph here. TAPI would have required the assent of the Taliban, and 2 years after the Memorandum of Understanding was signed, the Central Asian Gas Pipeline Ltd. Consortium, led by U.S. company Unocal, flew a Taliban delegation to Unocal headquarters in Houston, where the Taliban signed off on the project. What? In 2012, Unocal brought the Taliban to the United States to sign off on the TAPI project? What the hell is this about? Shouldn't Unocal be working with the Afghanistan government? I mean, we don't even know what the issue was. Maybe Unocal was involved in paying the Taliban for security on the pipeline. 100 things come to mind of why in 2012 Unocal is talking with the Taliban, who, according to our government and military, are terrorists. And you've brought them into the United States, terrorists who are the drug traffickers, and you're signing off on a project. Do you see the problem with that, ladies and gentlemen? You're aiding and abetting an enemy, committing espionage against the United States. This is crazy. And what would Unocal say? Oh, well, this is about the pipeline. How is the Taliban involved with the pipeline in 2012? In 2012, what's the answer? Is it super simple? Something explainable? I just can't even imagine what the hell this is about. Or maybe, the Taliban was being offered a better deal by Unocal to bring their heroin over in their big, huge oil boats. I don't know. Just saying. All right, let's continue this. Last year, however, the country's security situation seemed to be improving to the point that TAPI was revived under the auspices of the Asian Development Bank, aka Rothschilds, with the Afghan government projected to receive 8% of the project's revenue. Shortly before the ADB signed off on the project on 12 December 2010, Afghan's Minister of Mines and Industry, Saharini, declared that this huge project is very important to Afghanistan. 5,000 to 7,000 security forces will be deployed to safeguard the pipeline route. Now they have a Taliban in the same article. Will the Taliban be the security forces? I don't know, but this is pretty shocking. In this document here, which is a report from the military on narco war drug trafficking, it talks about what our goals are for counterinsurgency, which would be to take down the Taliban and all their drug trafficking, and to stop all their money and paying insurgents, and to build their agriculture, and to build a government. In this article by the Express Tribune, written March 2012, it says the TAPI pipeline, 2 major U.S. oil companies interested. 2 major U.S. oil companies are interested in a 4-country pipeline that would ship gas worth billions of dollars from Turkmenistan to India and Pakistan, a U.S. government official said on Friday. You'll notice in here they do not have Afghanistan listed, and these companies, one of them is going to ship gas worth billions of dollars. And I could only surmise that it was Unocal. And this article was written in March 2012, and then this article was written in May. So 2 months later, maybe Unocal won the contract, and they're going to be shipping gas worth billions of dollars. Now, at the bottom of this article, it says the governments of Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India are now aiming to sign the TAPI pipeline deal by July 31st, 2012. Yeah, and so you get little tidbits out of each article, because I hadn't found when Afghanistan had finally signed the TAPI pipeline. And this article is telling us it was July 31st, 2012. But let's go back to this article and look at this line where it says the U.S. company Unocal flew a Taliban delegation to Unocal headquarters in Houston, where the Taliban signed off on the project. And what is Unocal probably going to do? Ship the oil around. Now, if you're having a meeting, Unocal would have the business sense to know that the Taliban has the heroin trade. And so what kind of deal can these two people make? Unocal is going to say, hey, Taliban, will you stop messing with the pipeline so we can build them? And Taliban says, sure, man, why not? No, that's not going to be the way it happens. Unocal is probably going to say something like this, possibly, allegedly. We know you have the heroin drug trade. I will offer you a discount in my boats shipping heroin around if you will leave the pipeline alone. And we will give you $1.5 million per month also. I mean, this is a business deal. Unocal is an oil business. The Taliban is a drug business. Wouldn't you think that they would both be using their assets to make a deal? All I know is I would like to see the documents of this meeting, a recording, a video, documents, to see exactly what was discussed with the Taliban. Now let's go to this document. This is by the Asian Development Bank Technical Assistance Report, and I picked this up out of another article. And this is May 2012. This is on the TAPI pipeline, and it's phase 3. And it is like an engineering document, and I find it really surprising that the bank is acting like an engineering lead. But that's what they're doing. The countries have all picked them the bank to be a secretariat and to run this part of the development of the project. Let's read the first paragraph. Introduction. The Turkmenistan-Afghanistan-Pakistan-India natural gas pipeline project of the Asian Development Bank aims to export up to 33 billion cubic meters of natural gas per year through a proposed pipeline approximately 1,800 kilometers long from Turkmenistan to Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. Project cost was estimated at $7.6 billion in 2008. TAPI will be operated by a special purpose consortium company, SPCC, and led by a commercial entity, consortium lead. Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, the parties, have the option to invest in the SPCC. Design and construction will take about 4 years after the pipeline consortium lead is selected and consortium agreements are signed. And I just point this out because this is May of 2012, and this is May of 2012, and they have not picked the consortium people, and yet in this paragraph here it says TAPI would have required the assent of the Taliban, and 2 years after the memorandum of understanding was signed, the Central Asian Pipeline Ltd consortium, led by the U.S. company Unocal, flew a Taliban delegation to Unocal headquarters in Houston, where the Taliban signed off on the project. At this point, the consortium leader has not been picked. That is what I am getting from this document. So I'm a little confused about Unocal saying it was in a consortium when you look at the various deadlines they have here and the various things they need to do, and they're not even going to get to the shortlisting of a consortium leader till August 2013, and the signing of consortium agreements was March 2014. So I just don't know the information on how Unocal at this point in May 2012 is in this consortium. Because according to these documents, they haven't picked the consortium, they haven't signed the consortium documents by May. But yet, that's what the HuffPost says. And so this goes through all kinds of information on how everyone will cooperate. They're going to have road shows where they go and try and get other businesses to invest in this pipeline. So of course, only special people are going to be invited to be investors in this pipeline. You and I are not going to be invited to invest in this pipeline. But this is like an engineering document. You can go through it. I will keep it and attach it below. I just thought it was very interesting that this consortium hadn't even been formed yet. This was the same month as the ADB article came out. They show the deadlines for when they're going to be picking these leaders. And so what was Unocal doing? What was Unocal doing with the Taliban? I have some more articles, just their titles to look at. U.S. Taliban talks and the fate of the TAPI pipeline. The progress of the TAPI project would largely depend on the outcome of negotiations between the U.S. and the Taliban. Negotiating with the terrorists regarding a pipeline. Negotiations between the United States and the Taliban have now reached an advanced stage. As reported, representatives from the U.S. and the Taliban are slated to engage in discussions with their respective stakeholders and leadership before proceeding to the next stage of discussions. All right, so the Taliban are in on these high-level discussions with stakeholders and leaders. Okay. And you have to ask who were these people that were negotiating with the Taliban. And if we click on this article, it says that the U.S. negotiators were led by Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad. So we never really find out who the negotiators are. And I have to wonder if it is the State Department. But another article showing you that the U.S. has been in talks with the Taliban. Though, whether it's the State Department or not, we don't know. It's a special envoy. And now here, this is July 2021 from Karl Naylor, The Global Great Game. And I just want to show you this paragraph at the bottom. It says, "We really need articles with more background information that inform Western publics what the real stakes have been in Afghanistan. The TAPI pipeline's connection to the war is not a conspiracy theory, but an inherent part of the geopolitical struggle for the upper hand in Eurasia. The only conspiracy is the one of the silence on it." That is so true, ladies and gentlemen. This war has been around the TAPI pipeline. Just like all of our wars have been around, oil and drugs. But the Taliban, ran by the CIA, who are drug trafficking, they're in negotiations on this pipeline. And here, this is back in 2012, TAPI gas pipeline, Kabul turns to Taliban for pipeline security. The administration of President Hamid Karzai has assured Pakistan and India that it has reached an understanding with Taliban insurgents to ensure the security of the multi-billion-dollar TAPI gas pipeline. Yikes. They've agreed they will not sabotage it. And the government would deploy troops to ensure the security of the pipeline. All right. So, what would make the Taliban agree to not bother this pipeline? Cash? And this is the Express Tribune by India. Afghans stretch 7,000 strong security force to guard the TAPI pipeline. And is this NATO? Is NATO guarding the pipeline here? Who's the security forces? Who are they? We don't know. And now, August 2021, this is today, the Taliban says okay for Afghanistan TAPI gas line pipeline work to continue as Kabul banks reopen. Yeah, it's not a problem. It's okay for your gas pipeline that we get paid for and we've protected and guarded to continue on so we can continue to get paid. But you also have to know that Afghanistan, all the countries are getting royalties off the pipeline money. And also Afghanistan is going to get $500 to $600 million for fees of the gas traveling in and out of their country. So who's going to be dealing with this $500 to $600 million? The Taliban now? The CIA? Drug traffickers taking over Afghanistan? And we were there playing games while our corporations and members of our governments were building a pipeline. It's the same shit in Syria. It is the same shit in Syria. Now what do we have? CIA chief held meeting with the Taliban leader in Kabul, U.S. media. This is Tolo News. And this was yesterday. The head of the CIA, William Burns, held a secret meeting with the Taliban leader Abdul Ghani Baradar in Kabul on Monday, according to the Washington Post. And this is talking about extending the deadline. Well, it says, Meanwhile, the U.S. President Joe Biden is expected to decide as soon as Tuesday on whether to extend the August 31st deadline to airlift Americans and their allies to safety. So what is the CIA director doing talking with the Taliban? Do we not still consider them terrorists? He's just got to go over and say, hi, I'm the new leader of the Taliban. I'll be giving you information about, how to run the country and what to do. We're getting all set up for the Silk Road with Russia and China and Iran. We've done our part, and now they're going to do theirs. They're going to come in and gentrify the entire country and, do all these things. Take over the country. But I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be leading you. So I'm your new leader. Let's have a party. So this was one of our great successes in Afghanistan, was the TAPI pipeline, which is completed, which the U.S. military and the U.S. government have supported. They have put money into it. They have played games with our military around, and the CIA's Taliban around this pipeline to distract us from the fact that they're building a pipeline. And this has been done over and over again. Vietnam, Korea, they built pipelines. Iran, they built pipelines. I mean, we just have to know where they set up the military bases for the next country. And we can just look online. What are the next proposed pipelines? Gas pipelines, fiber optic pipelines. And we could just warn that country, people are going to come over and slaughter you to put in a gas pipeline. Because the Rockefellers are not going to be paying you for the land that these pipelines run on. They're just going to take your land. And if they need to kill you, they will. So keep your eye open for our next big success. Now let's finish up with these main points from Newsweek and this article that came out in February of 2021. First, the State Department denies facilitating a meeting with the Taliban. That we can't find any information on. There was an envoy from the U.S. speaking with the Taliban. We don't know who that was. We do have Unocal speaking with the Taliban and the CIA director speaking with the Taliban. The next point is the U.S. has not spent any money, and according to The Guardian, they are setting up army bases for the next pipeline. So I'm assuming that the U.S. military's entire function in Afghanistan was for this pipeline. And so the $2.2 trillion that were spent to kill our children needs to all be paid back. All be paid back by these generals and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Pentagon, the U.S. DOD. All of them got kickbacks from this pipeline for the military, and we want everything that you have bought to be sold and give us our money back and to go to jail. Then we also have number 3, Turkmenistan's foreign minister said in November that his country in 2021 will begin construction on the natural gas pipeline in Afghanistan. In 2021, Turkmenistan will start the construction of the natural gas pipeline. This is a lie. We know from the Link article that the natural gas pipeline, the LNG portion of the pipeline, was completed in 2018, and they were groundbreaking in Afghanistan in 2018. So the foreign minister is blatantly lying. Down below, the project started in March 1995 when a memorandum of understanding was signed between the governments of Pakistan and Turkmenistan. However, the pipeline hasn't been completed and has been hobbled by delays. Just hobbling along here, Not doing anything. Don't look over here. The pipeline has been completed. In 2015, it began in Turkmenistan. In 2018, they began groundbreaking for Afghanistan. In 2019, groundbreaking in Pakistan. And they've already finished the Indian portion, which they have not talked about. But we see from the article that I showed from the Gas Journal saying that Afghanistan broke ground in 2018, and the Mint article also said that they broke ground in 2018. And so it hasn't been hobbled by delays. It is complete. There was groundbreaking in Pakistan. So did we bail out of Pakistan because we're finished with the pipeline? We're going to let the CIA take over with their Taliban? I'm not sure what's going to happen next, but all I know is a U.S. media company did not question any of these points. Did not say, well, this isn't true. Doesn't have another paragraph to say, well, actually, the pipeline is finished. So Newsweek is complicit in lying to the American people. The government and the military and the corporations are complicit in lying to the American people. I ask all of you to speak out, to write to your senators, to call them, because there needs to be a trial for all those who participated in the absolute destruction of Afghanistan. This is Radioactive Banana, signing out.